The air was hot with tension. Inside the Galactic Peace Dome, two sides stood in silence. Humans on one side, Varelian aliens on the other. The floor glowed beneath their feet. The ceiling showed the stars. Captain Jace Nolan, Earth's envoy, and decorated soldier stood tall in his uniform. His face was calm, but his mind raced. One wrong word, one wrong move, and the fragile peace between Earth and the Varelian Empire would collapse. Across from him stood the alien queen sitting on a raised crystal throne. Her face was unreadable, cold, royal. At her side was Zaire, a young Varelian female warrior with silver markings on her cheek and armor that shimmered with living light. She watched Jace closely, too closely. Suddenly, boom! A loud blast shook the dome. Fire ripped through the side wall. Guards shouted. Everyone ducked. An assassin drone shot through the flames, spinning, targeting the queen. Jace didn't think. He moved. He ran across the floor, shoving Zaire aside as the drone fired. The beam meant for the queen burned past his shoulder. He aimed, his wrist blaster, and fired. Direct hit. The drone exploded mid-air. Metal and sparks rained down. Silence fell. All eyes turned to Jace. The queen stood slowly. Her voice was calm, too calm. You moved to protect my daughter before your own people. Jace blinked. She was closer. Zaire stepped forward, her eyes glowing with emotion. He didn't hesitate, Mother. He saved me. The queen looked at Jace again. Then, spoke words that changed everything. We demand proof of loyalty. Ancient law must be followed. Jace looked confused. What kind of proof? Zaire turned to him and said something no one expected. Only mating can convince her. The hall fell silent. Jace coughed. Wait, what? Zaire didn't flinch. It is our oldest tradition. To prove a warrior's loyalty, they must bond, through blood or body. You saved me with your life. Now, you must seal it. Jace's mind spun. Was this a trap? A joke? But Zaire's face was serious, and the queen was watching with sharp eyes. He whispered, You're not kidding. Zaire took a step closer. I do not joke. If you refuse, the queen will see it as betrayal. Earth will be removed from the alliance. Jace looked around. All the humans were frozen, stunned. His own commander said nothing. No one moved. The queen raised one hand. You have 3 days. Then we call for judgment. That night, Zaire found Jace alone on the edge of the royal gardens. The air smelled of strange flowers and stars. You think this is about mating, she said softly. Jace looked at her. Isn't it? She shook her head. It is about trust. Our people do not understand words. They understand action. You acted for me when no one else did. Now the queen wants to see if that action was real, or just chance. Jace sighed. And if I say no? Zaire looked down. Then the queen will call you a liar. Earth will lose everything. And she paused, I will be punished. For choosing you. Jace stood slowly. So this wasn't your mother's idea? It was yours? Zaire nodded. Her voice was quiet. You didn't let me die. That means something. To me. Jace stared into the distance. 3 days to decide. Not just about loyalty, but about connection, about trust, and maybe something more. The Varelian court chamber was packed. High-ranking aliens lined the crystal balconies. Light pulsed from the ceiling like a heartbeat. Floating cameras hovered in the air, broadcasting the event to 1,000 systems. At the center of it all stood Zaire, her armor polished, her chin held high. Beside her stood Captain Jace Nolan, his uniform clean but his thoughts scattered. He didn't understand everything about their customs, but he understood this. Whatever happened next would shape the fate of Earth. The queen raised her hand. Step forward, daughter, she said. Zaire obeyed. Then in a clear voice she spoke. By our ancient code, I offer bond with this human, Jace Nolan. He risked death to protect me. I now place my name and honor in his hands. Whispers filled the room. The declaration was more than expected. This was no casual ritual. This was personal. Jace stepped forward slowly. Are you sure about this? He whispered. Zyre didn't look at him. She stared straight ahead. Yes, I choose you, not for show, but because I trust you. The Queen's expression did not change, but her eyes sharpened. You understand what this means, human? Jace nodded, unsure. I think so. The Queen's voice cut through the air like a blade. If you walk away now, Earth's agreement dissolves, and so does this bond. If you stay, you must follow through, not only by body, but by spirit. Behind him, Jace could hear his own people speaking in low voices. This is madness. He can't do this. We'll lose the alliance if he backs out. He looked back at Zyre. Her hand was open. Her eyes were steady. She wasn't begging, she was offering. Jace took her hand. I'll stay. Gasps echoed across the balconies. Zyre's fingers closed around his, but the Queen lifted one finger. This bond is not complete. There is a second trial. Jace blinked. What now? The Queen turned toward the center of the chamber. The floor split open. From below, a massive black stone rose up, carved with alien symbols glowing red. The trial of intent, she said. If your connection is real, the stone will remain. Still, if your heart is false, it will burn. Zyre looked worried for the first time. This trial is old, dangerous. Even many Varelians fail it. Jace stepped forward anyway. I'm not turning back now. He placed his hand on the stone. It felt cold at first. Then, heat rushed through his palm. Not pain, but memories. He saw her Zyre, bleeding on the battlefield, reaching out, and him, running to shield her. No orders, no thoughts, just instinct. The stone pulsed, then went still. Silence filled the chamber. The Queen stood. For the first time, a soft smile touched her lips. The bond is accepted. Outside the chamber, Jace leaned against a wall, sweat on his forehead. Zyre joined him. You passed, she said softly. He chuckled. Barely. She tilted her head. You still don't understand what this means, do you? Jace shook his head. Not really. Zyre looked at him, calm, almost shy. You are not my trial anymore. I am yours. The wind on the Varelian plateau was bitter and dry. Black crystal spires reached into the sky like the fingers of dead gods. At the center of it all stood a lone stone building, silent, cold, shaped like a fang pointing at the heavens. They called it the Hall of Eyes, and no outsider had entered it and come out unchanged. Jace Nolan stood at the base of its stairs. His hands were steady, but his heart wasn't. Behind him, warriors stood silent in ceremonial robes. Not even Zyre was allowed to speak here, but her eyes, sharp, violet, and burning, never left him. The Queen had spoken the law just hours before. The trial of spirit must follow the trial of flesh. Only in the Hall of Eyes will his loyalty be truly seen. He must go alone. As the heavy doors opened, Jace stepped inside. The chamber was dim. Dozens of giant, glowing eyes were carved into the walls, the ceilings, even the floor. They blinked. They moved. They watched. A low voice echoed across the room. It didn't belong to any one being. It belonged to the hall. Speak your purpose, human. Jace swallowed. I came to prove I am loyal, to Zyre, to her people. Loyalty is easy when things are safe, the voice replied. Let us see what you are when all safety is gone. Suddenly the room changed. The walls disappeared. Jace stood on a battlefield alone, covered in blood, hearing the screams of soldiers who had trusted him. He saw Earth, burned. He saw Zyre, dying, whispering his name as he walked away. Why did you leave me? Her voice asked. Jace trembled. I didn't. But you could have, and you will, the hall said. Then the image shifted. He was in a palace, surrounded by riches, freedom, power, and Zyre, locked in chains. Forget her, a voice said. You saved your world, that's enough. But Jace shook his head. No. You would trade your own world for one alien girl? He nodded. Without her, I'm not even human anymore. The eyes blinked. The room went dark, then bright again. The battlefield was gone. He was standing in the chamber once more. And before him stood Zyre, but her eyes glowed red, her mouth curled in a cruel smile. She raised a blade. You failed, she hissed. Jace stared. No, you're not her. He stepped closer. You're just fear. You're not real. He closed his eyes and said softly, she would never look at me with hate. He opened his eyes again. The false Zyre was gone, and in her place, the real Zyre stood in the doorway, tears in her eyes. She ran to him against all protocol. You weren't supposed to enter, Jace gasped. I don't care, she whispered. They said you might not come back. A deep hum filled the chamber. Then the hall spoke one last time. She broke the law. For you. And still you stood your ground. Bond accepted. You are seen. As they walked out into the light, the crowd waited in shocked silence. No one had ever passed the hall with another, but Jace and Zyre had done the impossible. Together. The queen rose slowly from her throne. Her voice was quiet, but powerful. I demanded proof of loyalty. You gave me something far greater. The sky above the Verelian capital turned gold. It was the color of rare honor. Inside the ancient ritual tower, everything was silent, except the sound of twin hearts beating. One human, one alien. Captain Jace Nolan stood at the center of the ceremonial circle. Silver lines glowed beneath his feet. His body had been marked with sacred ink, traced by Verelian priestesses. Across from him stood Zyre, dressed in a flowing robe that shimmered like firelight. Her armor was gone. Only her bare truth remained. This was not a wedding. This was not lust. This was a vow, sealed not with law, but with soul. The queen watched from above, silent and regal. The council stood behind her, emotionless. And hidden among them, enemies waited, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. A soft drum echoed. Zyre stepped forward. Jace Nolan, by your hand I was saved. By your choice, I was defended. Now I offer you my essence, my bond, my trust. She placed her hand over his heart. He placed his hand over hers. Zyre of Verelia, Jace said. You asked for proof. You gave me your life first. I return it now, freely. The circle lit up. Energy danced between them. The bond was beginning, and then it shattered. A sharp whine cut through the air. Suddenly, explosions ripped through the upper chamber. Guards shouted. From the crowd, cloaked assassins leapt forward. Blades. In hand, energy darts flying. Someone screamed, "Stop the Union! Kill the human!" Chaos. Jace grabbed Zyre and rolled across the circle, shielding her with his body. A blast tore through the floor. The queen stood, surrounded by guards. Her voice thundered, "Protect the bonding pair. Verelian law demands it." But not everyone obeyed. Several council members backed away, or disappeared. This wasn't just an attack. It was a coup. Zyre pulled Jace to cover behind a crystal column. You okay? She asked. Was about to kiss you. Jace replied, out of breath. Now, I might die instead. She smirked, even with blood on her face, then fight like someone worth bonding. They stood. Together, Zyre drew 2 curved daggers. Jace picked up a fallen spear. The assassins came. Fast, silent, deadly. But the bonded pair moved like one. He blocked. She struck. He fell back. She pulled him up, Every blow, every dodge, they weren't just protecting each other. They were defending their choice. One assassin rushed Zaire from behind. Jace saw it. Without thinking, he dove in front, taking the blade in his side. Zaire screamed and spun, slicing the attacker down, blood on her face. Tears in her eyes. "You protected me again." Jace, coughing, smiled. "Bad habit." The queen stepped into the circle. Her guards surrounded the remaining enemies. "You shed blood in sacred light," she told the traitors. "And still he stands." She looked down at Jace. "You are broken, bleeding, and loyal." Zaire dropped beside him, holding his hand. "Then let our bond be completed," she whispered. She leaned forward, pressed her forehead to his, and in the center of the ruined chamber they bonded, not in beauty, but in battle. A pulse of light spread from their bodies, not fire, not magic, but something ancient, real, trusted. The queen nodded. Let all of Verelia witness this was not a mating. This was a war, and they won it together. The sun rose over Verelia with red light, the color of transformation. In the great throne chamber, silence gripped the air. No drums, no guards breathing loudly, no war chants, only eyes, all watching Captain Jace Nolan, the first human to ever stand at the Queen's right side. His wound was bandaged. His steps were slow, but he stood. Beside him, Zaire stood proud, armor polished, head held high. She was his shield, his voice, and now, his chosen bondmate. The Queen rose from her crystal throne. Her silver cloak trailed across the steps like flowing water. She raised her voice, not soft, not loud, but final. By sacred right, the bond has been sealed. By blood and spirit, this human has proven loyalty. Everyone expected her to end the trial there, but she didn't. Instead, she turned and did the unthinkable. Today I name Jace Nolan, Verelian guardian consort. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Shock rippled across every face. A human. Not just a mate to a warrior, but a royal consort. Zaire looked at her mother in disbelief. Jace whispered, "What does that title mean?" Zaire whispered back, "It means you're above generals, above priests. Only the Queen speaks above you." Jace's jaw tightened. "That's not what I wanted." Zaire's eyes narrowed. "No, but it might be what she needs." Suddenly the Queen faced her daughter. "Zaire, of House Velshan, you chose a human, you protected him, you disobeyed tradition, and brought him out of the Hall of Eyes alive. Do you still trust him with your life?" Zaire stepped forward without hesitation. "I do." "Then guard him well," the Queen replied, "because there are many here who already want him dead." That night, the royal halls burned with whispers, jealous voices, angry nobles, secret talks behind cold walls. They feared Jace, not because he was dangerous, but because he didn't play by their rules. And yet he had won. In her chambers, Zaire cleaned her blades in silence. Jace sat nearby trying to process everything. "Why would your mother do that?" he asked. "Make me something so high?" Zaire replied without looking up. "Because now if they kill you, it's treason. And if they protect you, they must respect the bond." Jace looked at her, really looked. "And what about you? Do you respect the bond?" Zaire turned slowly. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were fire. "I didn't fight beside you because of a rule. I did it because I see you." Just then a soft knock. A message bearer arrived with a scroll sealed in black wax. Zaire opened it. Her eyes darkened. "They're summoning you to the mine pit." Jace stood slowly. "That's where they test warriors, right?" Zaire nodded. "No, that's where they break them." There were no doors, no guards, no lights, only a crack in the stone floor like a wound in the planet itself. The mine pit. Jace stood at the edge, looking down into blackness that didn't move. didn't breathe, but felt alive. Zir stood behind him, tense. Her voice was barely a whisper. Even the strongest Varelians enter as warriors and crawl out as ghosts. If your bond with me is real, the pit will show it. If not, she didn't finish. She didn't need to. Jace nodded. No armor, no weapons, only a memory pendant on his neck, Zyr's, pressed into his hand before he stepped forward. Remember me, she said. Not how I look, how I made you feel. He jumped and vanished into silence. Darkness swallowed him, not like night, but like forgetting. The pit didn't test the body, it attacked the heart. Jace landed hard, but no pain came. Only voices, whispers. She used you. You were just a tool to win favor. She will leave you the moment the queen dies. He shook his head. No. But the pit twisted. Walls formed around him. Earth streets, broken cities, old battlefields, people he failed. Children screaming. Zyr's voice fading in the distance. You were never enough. He ran. But no matter how far he moved, the visions changed shape to trap him. Zyr laughing with another male. The queen ordering Jace's death. Human leaders turning their backs on him. You don't belong here, the voice hissed. You don't belong anywhere. Then, stillness, a light, soft, faint. In the center of the chaos, a memory, Zyr, her hands bloody, her arms around him, crying. Don't die on me, Jace. I didn't bring you here to lose you. It wasn't a dream. It was real. His mind grabbed it like a rope in a storm. Suddenly the walls cracked. The fake Zyr screamed and vanished. The battlefields fell to dust, and Jace stood alone, in a white field of silence. His breath returned. His thoughts were his again. And then he heard it. Not from the pit. From outside. Zyr's voice, calling his name. He moved forward, one step, then another. The light grew brighter. The darkness screamed one last time. You passed the trial, but you'll never be one of them. Jace whispered back. I'm not trying to be one of them. I'm just trying to be hers. The pit spat him out. Jace collapsed in Zyr's arms. She held him close, trembling. He was soaked in sweat, but his eyes were clear. You came back, she breathed. Because you were waiting, he said. High above, the queen watched from a tall spire. Her voice was soft, just for herself. No human has ever survived the pit. No alien has ever called one back. She turned to her advisors. He's not just loyal. He's dangerous, because he feels. The royal square was filled with silence. No cheering, no music, just the sound of boots on stone as Captain Jace Nolan was led to the center platform in chains. His crime, surviving. After passing every trial, after saving Zyr, bonding with her, surviving the mind pit, the Varelian High Council declared him a danger to tradition. He has no blood here, one elder had said. He has only her heart. Another spat. That was the real threat, not his hands. His heart. Zyr stood before the queen, unarmed, eyes full of fire. She knelt, not in surrender, but in challenge. You made him fight for your trust, she said. Now fight for his. The queen looked down at her daughter. If I defend him, I divide my empire. Zyr's voice cracked, but she did not bow her head. If you let them kill him, you lose your soul. In the crowd, whispers grew. Some wanted Jace dead. Some began to question everything. A spark was catching fire. The queen raised her hand. The guards stopped. Jace looked up, bruised, bleeding, but proud. The queen slowly stood and faced the people. You ask if he belongs. He came to us with nothing. We gave him trials and he gave us truth. You gave him fear. And still, he gave us loyalty. The chains around Jace's wrists unlocked. Zyr rushed forward and caught him before he fell. He looked into her eyes. Was it worth it? He whispered. She smiled through her tears. You made me believe in something stronger than blood. The queen stepped forward. She placed her hand on Jace's shoulder. You are now a shieldmate of the crown. You may never be Virelian by skin, but you are Virelian by choice. From that day forward, Earth and Virelia were no longer just allies, they were family. And Jace? He didn't return to Earth, because home wasn't where he was born. It was where someone believed in him enough to fight the galaxy. Sometimes, when the stars were quiet, Zyre and Jace would sit outside the royal hall. No armor, no politics, just two hearts side by side. She would ask, "What if you had walked away?" He'd smile and say, "I didn't come to win an empire. I came to stay because you were the first one who saw me."